So, for example, okay, this would be kind of another version of it. This August, well, let's start farther back than that. I got my driver's license towards the end of my junior year because, as you can tell, my birthday is kind of late in the year. And so I drove for about 14 months before I went to college. I lost count of how many times I got pulled over before I went to college. I think that it was somewhere around 12 or 13 in that like 14 months. One time, well, I got pulled over the night before I left college for not having a muffler, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, so they weren't real happy with me. Not having my driver's license, and I don't think I had an insurance card on me, okay? The police officer comes up, and he asks for all this information. Obviously, I don't have this old man. And my best friend's sitting with me, and the guy leans in, and he's like, do you have your driver's license, sir? My best friend pulls out his driver's license, he goes and checks on it, and he's like, is this Sean Bitzer? And he goes, yeah. Okay, you guys have a good evening. I have no idea. Okay, I didn't even show him cleavage, and I got off on that one somehow. Okay, I got pulled over one time for having a dirty license plate. I didn't even know that was against the law. Okay, I got out. I'm not even kidding you. The police officer got back in his car. I got out and I took my foot and I went and drove off. Like, I got pulled over so many times. I'm very accustomed to getting pulled over, okay? And it seems like this trend is not really slowing as I get older, okay? I drive a car that's 18 years old, and a lot of things like to break on it, okay? So, I was in West Salem. It was a Sunday night. It was coming on midnight. And, well, it was probably about 11 o'clock at the time. And I'm coming back that main street, that like 4 or 5 lane road that goes straight towards 22. Goes straight towards 22, okay? And I'm heading down that direction, and I'm trained that cops pulling me over, so this cop goes past me, and I've got a pretty good gut feeling that he's going to pull me over. It also helped that I looked in my rearview mirror and he pulled a big U-turn and came after me. And I go to turn onto River Road, and I don't know if you can visualize this section of West Salem. West Salem is pretty nice. This road is the sketchiest part of West Salem there is, okay? It is creepy, okay? It is dark, there's no one out there, the cop pulls me over, and there's this big manufacturing plant or something, there's a big concrete wall, and it goes straight into a sidewalk, there's the curb, and then there's the road, okay? And no one can see you, okay? Unless they're standing on this road, there's not very good lighting, okay? Real creepy place. Cop pulls me over, he comes up and he's like, hey, can I see your driver's license and insurance? You know, and I know the drill, and so I'm going to get it out. He's like, you know why I pulled you over? No, well, you got an out headlight. Okay. And so he takes my stuff back, and he comes back up and he's like, are you aware, Mr. Bitzer, that your insurance was canceled? And I'm like, now? He goes, I have to impound your car. Awesome! All the while, okay, I don't even know why I'm telling you guys this, but we're tight. I'm going to share you stories with you, okay? All the while, I have an illegal airsoft gun sitting under my seat, and I'm just praying to God he doesn't search my car, okay? So he calls the tow truck. He's like, want to get anything out? Obviously, I'm not touching the gun. Leaving that sucker in there. And I get this, my dad's set of golf clubs, which are a very expensive set of golf clubs, and I'm in a real sketchy part of town. The tow truck comes, takes my car, drives off. The cop's like, well, I gotta go do other things. Leaves me. It's almost midnight by this point, and I'm sitting in the sketchiest part of town I can think of with a several hundred pair of golf clubs on my back. I ain't running nowhere. Okay? And I've been calling one of my friends for like a half hour, and one time the phone answered and it hung up. Okay? So apparently he doesn't want to be interrupted. Okay? So I tried calling another friend, Jared. Like I said, it's about midnight by this point. Okay, he answers. He's kind of half awake or half drunk. I can't tell. And I know. Okay, so and he's kind of groggy. Oh yeah. And so he gets out, half dressed, drives to West Salem, which is like 20 miles, right? Comes and picks me up at that Circle K, which is like where it just starts to get back to normal, but it's still real sketchy, okay? And And I'm just sitting out there in the dark at midnight with several hundred, like I'm going golfing or something, right? In all honesty, have you ever seen The Legend of Bagger Vance? Right? I kind of felt like that guy, like he just wanders around with no shoes and a pair of golf clubs. Okay, so I'm sitting there, Jared comes and picks me up. He not only drives me back to Monmouth, which is like 20 minutes back, he takes me out to my house, which is like 10 miles out, drops me off, comes back. It has got to be after 1 by the time he gets home, and he has to get up at like 5:30 in the morning, or 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work. Okay? This is the same idea. God is saying, okay, if in verse 13, it refers to is if us as evil and bad people can find the goodness in our heart and the kindness in our heart to be willing to do something as that. Whether it's getting up in the middle of the night to get you 3 loaves of bread, which by the way, I'm not doing, so don't come knocking on my door. And don't even call me if you lose your insurance, because I'm not coming to pick you up either. Or if it's Jared coming to pick me up in the middle of the night, when it's very not convenient for him to come drive and take me home, if we have the goodness and the kindness in our lives to do that, how much more is a God who loves us perfectly and is holy and righteous and cares for us so much going to do for us if we can find the kindness to do something as simple as that? You see, the issue for the apostles, the issue in the time, was that for the people of Jesus' time, prayer had become this very mathematical, ritualistic occurrence. There were rules and lists of rules. You had to dress a certain way. You had to stand in a certain place. You had to be in a certain posture. You had to say certain things before you did it. You had to do certain things before you did it. When you were praying, you had to be in a certain position. You had to do certain things. And then when you were done, and there was all these rules and rituals of prayer. And it became just a very ritualistic, religious occurrence. And to us, that may sound like, well, that's dumb. Why would people think that? But often we get the same idea. Often religion tells us the same thing. That if you don't get up before you do anything else and pray, if you don't spend time with God in the morning, if you don't eat the Word before you eat your breakfast, okay? I had one guy tell me that. Then you're not going to have a good prayer life. If you don't pray for at least an hour a day, you're not going to have a good prayer life. If you don't pray in a certain fashion, you're not going to have a good prayer life. If you don't do this, if you don't do that, and we're told all these things that we have to do to have a good prayer life, but that has nothing to do with our prayer life. It has little to do. And I'm not saying before you tone me out and think that I'm an idiot and that I'm lost, is none of those things are bad. But to say that you have to do those things to have a good prayer life, that's not what Jesus came to tell us. He came in this parable to tell us that it's more than that. That we don't have to settle for the ritualistic, religious occurrence of prayer. Because you see, the apostles, when they came, I don't know if you know this, is the only question they asked Jesus. How do we pray? Teach us how to pray. And they expected, it's easier to get an equation. It's easier for someone to tell you, okay, here's 3 steps of how you do this. That's easier than to say, pursue God, love God. That's more difficult because it requires all of us. And Christ came to tell us that prayer is so much more than an occurrence. It's so much more than a religious practice. It's so much more than a time of day that we spend. And when they ask, he tells them the Lord's Prayer. And it's kind of like Jesus standing there and they say, teach us how to pray. And he says, oh, well, this is how you pray. And he starts praying. And then he says, well, and this is why you can pray this way.